Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the Jupiter return. Now, Jupiter return is when Jupiter returns to your natal Jupiter position, and this occurs approximately every 12 years. Now, most people will experience 5 or 6 Jupiter returns during the course of their life. Now, this could be a period that is very fortuitous, advantageous, and lucky, and it may bring you a lot of ebullience, a lot of happiness. You might feel very effervescent during this time, and you might feel like you can conquer the world during this time. You might feel that you could do just about anything, and it's very important to remember that during this time not to become overly arrogant or even borderline coxcombical, because you might feel there can be a thing called over optimism and overconfidence that could set in during this transit, and it's important to guard against this. However, if this is a period where you're feeling disconsolate or dejected or sad in any way, this could be a time where the Jupiter return can take you out of the doldrums, out of that melancholy mode, and really pessimism may turn strongly into optimism. It doesn't necessarily mean that any problems you have are going to be eradicated, but I think it gives you more confidence and ability to conquer them and overcome them. Now, you have to keep in mind too that Jupiter can be somewhat paradoxical. Though Jupiter is a benign planet, but it also has the tendency to enlarge and expand. So it's important to don't become overly jovial and optimistic to the point, as I stated before, which could borderline being arrogant. And also, you don't want to get to a point where you feel so exceptionally good that you don't try to accomplish anything. Because sometimes I think this return in some cases can lead to stagnation and being overly sedentary and being complacent and being overly satisfied with where you are in your life. So, anyway, this could still be very auspicious for publishing, higher education, things connected with religion, and really also what's important to remember too is that you have to when you have your Jupiter return, look and see what sign your Jupiter is in and what planet it is in. What sign it is in and what house it resides in. In my instance, for example, okay, I have Jupiter in Libra posited in the 6th house. So it could indicate that during this time of my return, which is coming up this year actually, that by me exuding Libra characteristics such as charm, diplomacy, tact, being equitable, being fair, being strongly about compromise, and perhaps doing this in matters pertaining to work, into service, and really those could be where I can really experience the benefits of Jupiter during, as far as the benefits of Jupiter return, my Jupiter return during this time. Now, the thing about it is, you have to also factor in that when you have a Jupiter return, you could have the odds are you're going to have at least one adverse aspect from Jupiter, from transiting Jupiter to a natal planet or point, or points, I should say, to natal points in your natal chart. I mean, in most cases, you're going to have at least one. In my case, a biggie is transiting Jupiter. When it makes this return, there's going to be a point in time where it makes an inconjunct to my natal ascendant. And this could indicate that maybe during that period, even though I might be experiencing a lot of this positive Jupiter energy, that the fact that you have Jupiter, I'm having this inconjunct from transiting Jupiter in my 6th house and in conjunct the ascendant, could mean I need to be careful health-wise, because it could enlarge maybe health situations. Inconjuncts can often be about health issues, and especially if you got it in the Jupiter, this transit in the 6th house, and the fact it's making the inconjunct to the ascendant, it could indicate that maybe that during this time I might be working excessively, could lead to some kind of exhaustion, overexertion, for example, and take its toll on the physical body. So sometimes a little bit too much exuberance and enthusiasm, it can sometimes be to the detriment, and it may be this case I have to be wary of when it makes this inconjunct aspect to my ascendant. So, and I'm using this as an example for others that most people that are watch this video, most people, well, I should say, are going to have at least one adverse aspect made from this transit during their Jupiter return to a natal planet or point in their chart. So anyway, well, that being said, another thing that's interesting about Jupiter return, what happens is you at or about age 60 is when you can have the Jupiter return and Saturn return occur simultaneously. Now you may be wondering, be a little perplexed about this. Well, how could this affect me? Well, I think the way I see this, when this does occur, and it will occur for most people because most people will live to at least about 60 years old at least. So, the way I see it is this. Well, the Jupiter return could help give a little bit more exuberance and enthusiasm to the Saturn return, so to speak. It can make you deal with the Saturn return in a much more upbeat and much more optimistic manner, and be more expansive regarding what's happening during your Saturn return. And I think with the Saturn return, what that can do in return, it's not necessarily going to affect the Jupiter return in a way that's to its detriment or in a negative manner. I think what it could do is it could ground that Jupiter energy, so to speak, and what it could do is make you focus on things that you can improve that are realistic, and they're not overly unrealistic. And I think as far as what you can accomplish, it could give you that ability to seek out things that you can do to make improvements in your life that are pragmatic, practical, but they're not unrealistic. And I think that's one way to look at this when you do have that time when you have the Jupiter return and your Saturn return, which would be your second Saturn return, occur simultaneously. So what's interesting, what you have to remember too is, though, when this Jupiter return occurs, the most intense part likely is going to be when Jupiter makes the conjunction when transiting Jupiter makes the conjunction to your natal Jupiter, and that'll be the most intense part likely, and that's when you'll be feeling the strongest effects, I believe, of this transit. And the thing about mine is when this happens with me, well, when that conjunction occurs, what it is, you have to factor into what house does Jupiter rule. Okay, I have Jupiter in my 6th house, right? But I have Sagittarius on the cusp of my 8th house. So Jupiter does rule my 8th house, and it's posited in the 6th house. So what this could mean is, well, when you have the ruler of the 8th and the 6th, and for me, in my example, I think what this states is, for me, because many of you may know that you're watching this, so you know I'm very enamored and infatuated with astrology, but that could indicate that I incorporate astrology, which is the 8th house, into my daily routine and somehow into my work life, which is the 6th house. But when transiting Jupiter makes a conjunction to that Jupiter, that could maybe intensify it and maybe give me even more exuberance, more expansive energy, and perhaps even a little bit more fortune in connection with it. It could be a very fortuitous period for me as far as my astrology work goes, and the fact that I do, and what's interesting is that I do incorporate astrology into my daily routine, as many of you may know, because I do videos every day, and I don't let, if I have a cold or something, I'm not going to let that prohibit me and stop me from making it. So it's just only basically when I don't have internet access, when I generally don't make the videos, because I just love astrology so much. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the Jupiter return in astrology. Stay tuned next time where I'll be continuing my transits in the houses series. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.